At the beginning of the previous chapter, we have dealt with what is called finite and non-finite phrases, if you remember. We have said that the verb as an element of the sentence is always recognized or realized as a verb phrase. A verb phrase, whether finite or non-finite. Here let us see, here the verb forms operate in finite and non-finite verb phrases, which are distinguished as follows. From the beginning, how to distinguish between finite and non-finite. First, finite verb phrases have tense distinction between past and present. You see, so this sentence or these two verb phrases are finite because he studies English, it is present. He studied English, it is past. Number two, finite verb phrases occur as the verb element of a clause, of a sentence. There is a person, number concurred between the subject and finite verb. Concurred is particularly overt with be. نقول I plus am, you, we, they plus are, he, she, it plus is. with the model or with must lexical شلون حيبين عندي if the subject is singular and the tense is a present. he reads, they read, okay, in present, and if the subject is third person singular. لكن أنا ما عندي هذا conquered if the verb start with modal auxiliary. See, you, I, we, he, she, they كله ياخذ كان. Finite verb phrase have mood. Mood, whether unmarked or marked. Unmarked means indicative, in declarative sentence, in statements, indicative mood. We distinguish the marked moods from imperative and subjunctive. Again, they will be discussed later on. What about the non-finite? I have forms for the non-finite starting with the to infinitive, to call. ing participle, calling. ed participle, called. Non-finite verb phrases consist of one or more such items. راح نفرق between these two, finite and non-finite. He smokes heavily. He smokes heavily. This sentence contains one finite verb phrase, or it contains one verb phrase, which is what? Finite. In contrast to this sentence, it consists of what? Of two finite or two verb phrases. The first one, to smoke, which is what? Which is a non-finite verb phrase. Non-finite verb phrase, you see? No subject, no tense distinction. The other, must be, it is finite one. Must be, it is the verb phrase, it is the verb for what? To smoke like that. And to smoke like that, it is the subject for the verb must be. He is working. He is working. Again, this verb or this sentence contains one verb phrase, which is finite. Where is it? Is working. How it is finite? Because there is a verb, there is a subject, there is a tense. In contrast to this sentence contains two phrases. What are they? Or two verb phrases. What are they? I have found and I have working. Found is finite verb phrase. Why? Because it is the verb of the subject I. Working is non-finite in the form of ing. It has no subject and no tense. He had been offended before. This sentence contains one verb phrase which is finite. Where is it? Had been offended. Had been offended. In contrast to this sentence, it contains two. The first one, having been offended before, which is what? A non-finite verb phrase function as adverbial. He was sensitive. What is the verb? The second one was, which is finite one. Please pay more attention to this one. It's very important. This section or this part will show us how to arrange our verb phrase. How to arrange the verb phrase if I have more than one case. How? Please pay more attention to this sequence. Very important. This sequence. Listen. Modal, perfective, progressive, and passive auxiliaries follow a strict order in the complex verb phrase. Means sometimes the verb phrase is not a mere verb. It is not one single verb. Maybe it is one lexical verb. Maybe it contains of primary verb, an auxiliary verb plus the lexical. So our job here, how to arrange them if I have more than one case, more than one contrast within the verb phrase. Please student, how this sequence should be memorized. Yani according to the verb phrase that you have. Maybe I will give you a sentence containing unarranged or not arranged sentence or a verb phrase, sorry, and I ask you to arrange them according to the what? To the verbs that you have. So, if there is only a modal, always followed by an infinitive, and this is normal. If you have a modal, you should follow this model by a bare infinitive, بالV, بالbase form. See? He would visit. He would visit. But if you have, it is perfective. If it is perfective, always followed by ed form. You will past participle. يعني look at the sentence. He had, you see, had visited. Had visited. هذه just have perfective plus the lexical form. But if I want to mix the modal plus the perfective, شلون حيكون؟ He plus the model. اتفقنا المodel should be followed by what? Should be followed by base form. By the base form. So, since I want to have هذا sequence model plus perfective راح what? أكيف. You see? We are going to what? To change the form of the model that I have to be in the base form. Say what? He would have. Again, plus have should be past participle. Then, the progressive one, always followed by ing. He was visiting. But in the case if I have modal or perfective or progressive, how to arrange our verb phrase? Modal should be followed by base form اللي هو الهاف. The have should be followed by past participle been. The been then should be followed by the ing اللي هو lexical verb should be changed to ing. صارت عندي he would have been visiting. See? Modal with perfective have visiting اللي هو progressive. من جبت البن because have should be followed by been اللي هو ed participle. Then the fourth case in which I have the verb phrase in the passive form, always followed by ed form, an ed form اللي هو past participle. He was visited. But if I want to mix all of them, to combine all of them, with have been being visited. You see? With modal have perfective will perfect should be followed by the past participle. Then I want to progressive, well, ing. Then the progressive should be followed by the passive form. So you should memorize this sequence. طبعا هذه last example something added for completeness, but the full range of auxiliaries is rarely found stimulously in this way. طبعا according to the idea that you have, according to the forms that you have, arrange your sentences or your verb phrase according to what you have. Contracts expressed in the verb phrase. In addition to the contrast of tense, aspect, and mood, in which you have what? It may be convenient to list here the other major construction which affect the verb phrase or in which verb phrase contrast play an important role. What are they? طبعا عندي الvoice اللي هو الباسيve والactive voice. A doctor will examine the applicants. The applicants will be examined. طبعا they are dealt before. Questions require subject movement. عندي الauxiliary as operator. John will sing. Will John sing? John sang. Did John sing? طبعا these are mentioned before in the first chapter. Negation, having the auxiliaries. Emphasis, again, having the emphasis form here, which is frequently carried by the operator, as in John will sing. John did sing. You see, I will make more emphasis about the operator. Imperatives. In go home, John. You go home, John. Don't go. Let us go home. طبعا this will be discussed in 4th year by God's will.